10 o'clock. It is the 18th day of May 2021, and I am your grumpy guide to all things gaming. It looks like I need a haircut. It is. You know, when you live long enough, you tend to see history repeat itself. Names may change, but history repeats itself. In our hobby, it seems to repeat itself much more quickly than it does in other aspects. Maybe as role players, we just have a really short memory. Maybe as role players, we just have a really short memory. Maybe as role players, we just have a really short memory. Me? Support me, Diet Coke. I need a sponsor, and I will sell out. Oh, trigger warning, I'm going to be addressing that so taboo subject of Xcards and player advocacy and player permission again, even though I feel like I just addressed it, because apparently it's a thing again. Thank you, Jeannie D. Thank you very much for making this hobby way more complicated than it should be. But really, it's not her fault, because this whole player advocacy, player permission, Xcard thing existed long before she ever started talking about it, or Satine Phoenix ever started talking about it. It goes all the way back to Carrie Solomon and The Forge, and it probably predates that. It probably goes all the way back to Chuck Balbo and Player Points, and it may even go back further than that, though my first encounter with it was Solomon, and then, of course, it being repeated through Satine, and then again Jeannie D, and this whole player advocacy, player permission, player consent, Xcard bullshit. So let's just address it again, because apparently it's a thing again. And we're going to start with the first aspect of this. And let us just say, no matter what else, at this point in time in history, you as a game master have so many tools available to you to make sure this situation does not occur at your game. We talk endlessly about the importance of Session Zero, about the importance of establishing from the very first hours of your game the physics of your world, and everybody at your table agreeing to the physics of the world. Now, obviously, if you're running an Adventure League campaign at a convention, you have to follow the rules of the Adventure League game at the convention. And if that says all that bullshit about advocacy and consent, well, sure, why not? They paid, you all agreed to abide by the rules of a convention. But if you're playing anywhere else, like a store or at your house or at anything else where you don't have to follow the rules of the Adventures League or the Pathfinder League or the Star League or the Super League or the Western League or the Horror League, then this is why Session Zero is so important. And now more than ever, you have so many tools available to you to make sure that you establish the physics of your world and let everybody know. Because you have this now. This is the internet. And the internet has lots of things that you can use to make sure that people know the rules of your game, and those rules of your game are set in stone. There's this place called Facebook. And on this place called Facebook, you can create a group. And then you can use your keypad. See, there's mine. Your keypad to type up the rules of your game and post them on Facebook. So anytime anybody questions the physics of your world or says, oh no, Xcard, you can address them to the Facebook page that follows your rules. Further, there is also these things called Twitter and Tumblr and Twitch and Discord. And you can use those to, once again, for prosperity, place the agreed upon Session Zero physics of your world in a place that are available for everybody to see. Furthermore, most of us now have access to something called a printer. And a printer allows you to magically take the things that you have typed up on the interweb and put them out on a piece of paper. You can then hand that piece of paper to people at your table and say, this is the physics of my world that we all agreed upon. Please show me what you agreed upon that is now offending you. Case in point, the snake story that I told earlier this year. Because here are the physics of the world that we all agreed upon. There is even this thing called a paperclip or a push pin. A push pin. This allows you to place this piece of paper on your DM screen or any place where somebody could see it, and therefore, once again, reference the rules you all agreed upon. So between all the things that are available to you on the internet and the ability to print out on a piece of paper the physics of your game, you are protected. Now, if you say, no Xcards, none of that bullshit, we all agreed upon it, here's the session 0. If somebody joins your game later, you can show this to them and say, this is the rules, my game is PG-13 or whatever. Is there anything on you here you find offensive? If you do, this probably isn't the game for you. Let me help you find the game that is for you. May I recommend Hello Kitty Island of Adventures? Second, this is the character record sheet. This is the character record sheet of the character I played most recently in a 5th edition role-playing game. As you can see, it's not finished because I was in the process of leveling them up and the game ended. But you can see on the character record sheet, there are certain things that we all agree upon exist in the game. Hit points, armor class, and saving throws. These therefore assume that it is an innate part of the game we have all agreed to play, of the physics of Dungeons & Dragons or whatever game, that danger exists in the world. If danger did not exist in the world, you wouldn't need an armor class, you wouldn't need saving throws, and you wouldn't need hit points. And there are games out there that don't use this mechanic, because there are games out there that are written differently. Several of the storytelling games, several of the player agency games, several of the Powered by the Apocalypse game. Fudge only has one stat, hit points. So, by accepting that your character is on the character record sheet, and if that character record sheet has anything resembling hit points and saving throws, because some games don't use armor class, hit points and saving throws, you are agreeing that you accept the responsibility that there are dangers in this world. If you do not agree that you are accepting that responsibility, then you should not be playing Dungeons & Dragons or any game that uses the idea of saving throws, armor class, and hit points. Because once again, once you put your character on this, you are accepting the responsibility that you are aware that dangers exist in this game, that there are things your character is going to encounter that may place them in danger or in a situation where they are not in total control. Armor class, hit points, and saving throws are the mechanics that protect you from those. You are accepting the danger, just like you accept the danger when you get on a roller coaster, but just like you accept the danger when you take a medicine that's prescribed to you by your pharmacist. Third, there are the rules of the game. Now, because of this, not everybody has a copy of the rules of the game, but because of this, everybody should have access to the rules of the game. So even if you don't have a printout of the games, you have the rules. Now, this is the 5th edition rulebook from Wizards of the Coast that was printed in 2014. I have personalized it with stickers because that's what I do. Ooh, and I do love stickers. Stickers. Please, player, before you come to my table, are you aware of the rules of the game we are playing? Please show me what in this or what in the Monster Manual offends you. Because by purchasing this game, by sitting down at a game of Dungeons & Dragons, you are bare minimum agreeing to the rules that are printed here, agreeing that the monsters in the Monster Manual exist, agreeing that the threats that this book addresses exist. So please show me where in this book or in the rule book of whatever game we're running, be it Call of Cthulhu, be it Villains and Vigilantes, be it Space Madness, be it whatever, Old West Crawdads, what offends you? And if there is something in this game, in the basic agreed upon rules of game in question that offends you, why are you playing it? And perhaps this is not the game for you. Let me help you find a game that doesn't have these things in it. Because I assure you, with almost 1 million different types of role-playing games available, if not more. In the United States alone, there are several thousand role-playing games in print. One of them will be the game you are looking to play. But Dungeons & Dragons is not the game you want to play if at any point in time you are offended by the basic rules of the game. And no, I do not have to change the physics of the game for you. As a olive branch, as a DM, I should say, either at the beginning or the ending of every game session, are there any things we need to address? Is there something you didn't like or something you did like? Is there something you want to see more of in the game? Is there maybe a monster you as a character player has always wanted to fight that you haven't seen yet? Or a treasure you've always wanted to get? Or an adventure you've always wanted to go through? Like, oh my God, I've heard so much about Tomb of Horrors. I really want to go through Tomb of Horrors. Can we go through Tomb of Horrors? And the DM can go, sure, yeah, I can put a Tomb of Horrors in there if you really want. And at the end of the game, the DM does not have to, but can also say, hey, was there anything tonight that you liked, anything you didn't like, anything you'd like to change? Now, I don't have to say that, but general common courtesy says maybe I should, because sometimes I might be incorrect. Furthermore, we now have this, which means you can call me, text me, email me at any time, day or night, and let the DM know, hey, I understand we're going to an adventure called Temple of the Snake God, and I'm afraid of snakes. So just maybe we can work that out, and maybe instead of Temple of the Snake God, it can be Temple of the Scorpion God. Or if it really has to be Temple of the Snake God, and you understand that I'm afraid of snakes, maybe there's something else we can work through. Okay. The physics of the game are on here. The physics of the game are on here. The physics of the game are on here. And the physics of the game are on here. If you have agreed to play Dungeons & Dragons or Call of Cthulhu, then you're agreeing at the bare minimum that you're going to roll the dice and use the stats, if nothing else. So please show me what you find offensive or worthy of an Xcard in this book. And if there is something in this book that you are offended by, you probably should not be playing this game. If you do not agree to the physics of the basics of the game, and in the game in question, D&D, armor class, hit points, saving throws, if you are in any way offended by the aspect or do not agree that this is the way the game should work for you, then Dungeons & Dragons is probably not the game for you, or games that use this similar philosophy. Let me help you find the game that does. These are my Session 0 rules. We all agreed upon them. If there's anything in my Session 0 rules you don't agree with, or you find questionable, or in conflict to your nature, this is probably not the game for you. Let me help you find a game that is. Session 0. We all agreed that this is the game I'm going to run. Even if you run a game at a convention, there are agreements. The convention politics agrees that if you're running an official game for us, you have to follow the physics that we have established for the world you're running. If you're running a store at a game store, like Seth Games and Anime here in Ventura, you have to agree to the physics that Seth has placed on the game, like no in-store violence, nobody running over and kicking a kid in the face, no foul language because there's little kids in the store, nothing that would endanger the store or place the store in a position where they could be liable, like describing a rape scene. No, you have to agree that if I'm running a game in a store, I have to do logical things because there's other people in the store who aren't at my game. And they might hear something, and then they could go to Seth and say, well, I'm suing you because my little kid heard that guy describing how he was going to have sex with that girl in the bar. So we agree that if we're running at a store, there's certain things. And then we agree that if we're playing at a house, there's certain things. The Session 0 physics are in shape. And if a new person comes to your game, like 2 or 3 sessions later, here are the rules we all agreed upon. If there is something you find offensive about this, or this, this is probably not the game for you. May I recommend the Hello Kitty role-playing game? Now, if any aspect of this 15 minutes you find offensive or you disagree with, well, then perhaps I'm not the grumpy guide to role-playing that you need, because I'm PG-13. And more importantly, I am a professional heel and have been since day one. I am an asshole. If you are offended by that, then this probably isn't the channel for you. If you are offended by any of the aspects of Dungeons & Dragons or any role-playing game that follows the same basic principles of Dungeons & Dragons, and I assure you, with over several thousand role-playing games in print and available to you in the United States, much less the several million role-playing games that are available to you if you look at other countries, if you look at the entire list over the entire world, it includes outer space because they play D&D on the space station, and the 45-year history of the game, I assure you I can, with very little effort, find a game that will fit you. It may not be a game I'm running, but with a population of several billion people on the face of the planet, and now you having access to things like Zoom and Roll20, you will find, with very little effort, somebody that is running a game where you will feel comfortable. But if you have a problem with any of the things in this, D&D is not the game for you. And because of that, I, as a dungeon master, do not have to give you the option to say at the beginning or the ending of the game, is there anything that upset you? Especially if I'm running a game at a house. Common courtesy says I should, but I don't have to. And I definitely do not have to give you, more importantly, you do not have the right to throw some stupid card down and say, no, that didn't happen. You offended me because you've placed my character in a situation I'm not in control of, or I'm afraid of snakes, or whatever, or no, that you didn't poison me because I don't want to be poisoned, or all the other things that this Pandora's box of player advocacy Xcards opens to you, which basically gives you, according to the rights, permission to ruin the game any way you as a want. No, you're assuming responsibility. This is a contract, and this contract says I'm assuming that I'm playing in a game where there are armor class, hit points, and saving throws, and I, at may some one point in time in the game, have to use the mechanics that are inherent to this game. The game by itself assumes that this exists. You are entering into a dangerous world. Unless you can show me someplace in here or the DM's guide where that stuff, is printed in black and white, and the creators of the game say you have to follow this. I don't have to follow it. Common courtesy says I should be responsible and aware that there are other people around. And, there are just certain things that aren't cool. Unless you're playing in a house where nobody cares. But if you're playing in a store or a convention or a park, so, in closing, and again, if my belief and logic is something you don't agree with, feel free not to be a member of the OGGM family, because I'm not going to change. This is what I feel. More importantly, this is what is inherent to the physics of this style of game. And once again, there are other styles of game that do not use this type of mentality, this type of physics. They're out there. So if this is a game that offends you, rather than attacking me and other DMs, use that energy to find a game that doesn't offend you, that has all the things you want. And if you can't, amongst the millions of printed role-playing games that exist, write your own. Write your own. Because that means there's a market for what you want. And you could be the next GURPS, the next Pathfinder, the next Cyberpunk, the next fantasy trip. You could be the next paradigm shift. Because if the game you want doesn't exist, then that means there's a market and you should write it. There we go. I know I'm going to have to go through this again because that's just the way our hobby works and we have very short memories. I know I'm going to have to go through this again because that's the way our hobby works and we have very short memories. But until next time, I am your grumpy guide to all things gaming, the OGGM. If you appreciate this content, hit that like button, hit that share button, hit that subscribe button, give me a thumbs up, hit that bell so you always know what's going on in the crazy world of the OGGM. And comment down below. If you disagree, comment down below. Though, if you do comment down below and you're not subscribed, I'm less likely to pay attention to what you comment. So you probably should subscribe. Help me hit that 500 sub mark by August 4th, and we're going to do something crazy. Until then, I will talk to you next time. That's 20 minutes of me spouting off bullshit. Get off my land.